I would like to thank you for taking the time to view this video. I am Terry Goodman and I am the Secretary of the Annual Conference. In this video, we want to briefly share with you the format and some of the content related to the upcoming 2021 Holston Annual Conference. To begin with, I am saddened to report that we cannot hold the conference at the Lake Junaluska Assembly Grounds. At the time we were planning, Stewart Auditorium was limited to only 150 persons. We need a space that will allow us to safely distance about 1,300 people. We also had to consider the limitation imposed upon us by Tennessee laws that preclude our ability to vote online due to limitations we have in our bylaws and standing rules. To that end, we have created a hybrid annual conference. I'd like to now turn to Ms. Becky Hall. Many of you will recognize her as the person on stage with the headphones that tries to keep us on track during our regular sessions at Lake Junaluska.
Thank you, Terry. I would like to share with you some aspects of the upcoming annual conference. First of all, it is a hybrid model. The annual conference will consist of both online and in-person meetings that will take place across several days in 2 different months. We will begin with a virtual online annual conference on June 12th at 1 p.m., similar to what we did last year. During this portion, there will be no debate or discussion. It will all be informational. All the various groups that need to make actionable reports will make their presentations. We will also hear from some groups that need to make a report that requires no action to be taken. At the conclusion of this session, Bishop Taylor will adjourn the annual conference so that it may reconvene at a later date. The annual conference will reconvene in a virtual setting on Friday, August 27th at 3 p.m. for our memorial service. We will then break for dinner and conclude the evening with the service of ordination and commissioning that begins at 7 p.m. Both of these events will be live streamed. In-person attendance will be limited to those included in the service and their guests. Following the ordination service, the conference will adjourn. On Saturday, August 28th, the annual conference will reconvene at noon for its final session. This will be an in-person session held at the Meadowview Convention Center in Kingsport. We will gather in a space that will allow us to safely distance and conduct our debate and discussion on the issues and reports from the virtual session that was held in June. I would like to now turn to the Reverend Mike Sluter, Director of Connectional Ministries. He will share some information about Connectional Ministries and Annual Conference.
Greetings, Holston Conference. I'm Mike Sluter, and I currently serve as the Director of Connectional Ministries. Let me thank you for your willingness to serve. If you're watching this presentation, you've been asked and agreed to attend Holston Annual Conference. Without you, we could not do the ministries that we've chosen to do together, especially during these different days of quarantine and social distancing. Your faithfulness is an inspiration to many. I want to share a couple of items with you. Firstly, this year, as every year, as part of Annual Conference, we will be receiving 2 different offerings, Change for Children and this year's Annual Conference mission offering, Holston Helping Holston in East Knoxville. We will be collecting both of these at our in-person Annual Conference meeting on Saturday, August the 28th at Meadowview Convention Center in Kingsport, Tennessee. Each church treasurer will be sent an envelope for each offering. Please bring those with you to Kingsport. Secondly, for our hands-on mission project, we will be loading the shipping containers headed to Liberia and Zimbabwe on June 2 and 3. Your district office will have the dates and times for collecting supplies in your area in order to get them onto the containers. I want to take a moment to say a tremendous thank you to you, Holston Conference. In the midst of dealing with a pandemic, you have been able to keep supporting the United Methodist schools and their communities in Liberia, as well as Ishe-Yenesu in Mutare, Zimbabwe. Your heart for mission never ceases to amaze me. Thank you. I would like to now turn to Reverend Susanna Lopez, who will share some final thoughts about the upcoming annual conference sessions.
By now, I think that you can see we have had to work outside the box to come up with a format that will allow us to engage in discussion and debate. It is not going to feel the same as when we gather at Lake Junaluska, but it moves us forward from the manner in which we have had to do things last year. It is the hope and prayer of the annual conference planning team that 2022 annual conference will be more like what we are accustomed to attending. As I close out my portion of this video, there are some things you need to know. First of all, a digital magazine has been produced and it can be found at the link that you can see on the bottom portion of the screen. This magazine will give you an in-depth look at some of the aspects of the upcoming annual conference that were more easily shared in a print rather than video format. Here, though, are some of the things that you need to remember. Annual conference members should attend both virtual and in-person sessions. The in-person session will require us to follow safe distancing guidelines and for all persons to wear a mask. We are also required to follow any safety guidelines Meadowview may have in place, such as temperatures taken before you can enter. We have scheduled 6 hours for the in-person session. Any business that cannot be concluded by the end of that session will be decided, as it was last year, by an action of the extended cabinet. Name tags will be mailed to all members of the annual conference by early August. You must have your name tag for admission to the event. Due to safe distancing guidelines, we must limit attendance to only members of the annual conference. This means that spouses, unless it is necessary for the spouse to assist annual conference member with mobility or other issues, cannot attend. I'll now turn back to Reverend Goodman for a final word.
As you can see, things are different. We will, however, be able to achieve the goals of a typical annual conference in some rather atypical ways. Let me remind you to please go to the link below and you will be able to find not only the 2021 Book of Reports, but also the pre-conference magazine that will share many more details about the upcoming annual conference sessions. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you in person this August at the concluding session of the annual conference at the Meadowview Convention Center in Kingsport, Tennessee.